Hi, my name is Maxine Wanery, and if you don't know who I am a best-selling author and a success coach for ambitious professional women, and I'm shooting this to you from my beautiful hometown of Bergen in Norway. Isn't it gorgeous? And I have a super important message for you today, and this message is for you if you're an ambitious woman like the women I work with, and you're at a particular stage where you're thinking that it's time to start a family. Today's message is so powerful, and it's for you. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and start with that message. It is basically this. You need to trust that voice within you that tells you that you are meant for so much more than the world expects. Now, if you're at this stage where you're thinking about starting a family, you'll probably understand what I mean, because you've no doubt heard story after story after story of, from women, mothers. They could be your sisters, they could be your friends, they could be colleagues or whoever, that basically tell you that once you become a mother, literally everything just becomes so hard. It's just so impossible to be able to have time to do anything that's important to you. It's so difficult, and you hear horror story after horror story that the career that you worked so hard for is suddenly gonna, go down the toilet. You hear so many stories that you've just got to forget yourself, and maybe you're a little bit worried. You're excited at the prospect of growing a family, but you're a little bit worried. Let me tell you the message again. Trust the voice within you that tells you that you were meant for so much more. Meant for so much more. I mean, it breaks my heart. Like, it's so rare that you see a woman who is really thriving professionally. She is rocking it in her career, doing amazingly well, who's also a mother, who's loving her life as a mother. It's so rare. And literally, you've seen it, right? When you see that kind of woman, you see her maybe at a conference or speaking on a panel or whatever, the thought or the question that comes to your mind immediately is, how is she doing it? And if you get the chance to ask her, that's the first question. How do you balance your work and your life? It's so rare that you see this woman, you're like, oh my gosh, how are you doing it? People ask me that all the time when they hear that, I am basically, my career literally exploded in a very good way when I had my daughter. When they find out I travel all over the world to amazing places. I was in Vietnam. Just this year, I've been in Vietnam. I have been in Dubai. I have been, traveling all over the world almost every single month for fun and for business. And yes, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a wife, and I'm a mother to an incredible daughter. And no, I don't put my husband and my daughter last. They're pretty high up there in my priorities. And when people hear this and they see the fun I am having in both my work and my life, they ask me, how are you doing it? And the truth is, and the reason I want to share this message with you is, if this is what you're desiring, it is possible for you. There is nothing that more special about me than you. Trust that voice within. To be able to thrive professionally in your professional life, as well as in your personal life, having children, having the phenomenal life professionally and personally, to be able to do that, you have got to stop listening to these voices, to these people that tell you how hard it's going to be, how impossible it is, how you have to forget yourself, how your life is over. You have got to stop listening to them and trust that voice within. And that voice within could be a tiny little voice, but you've got to trust it. And I know this without a shadow of doubt, that voice is right. And to share this, to basically show you how much I know, I'm going to share part of my story with you. Now, depending on how long you've known me or if you've been following me or not, you may or may not have heard the story, but I don't think you've heard it. Regardless of if you've been in my community for a while, I don't think you've heard it like I'm going to share it with you now, because as much as I hate sharing this story, because it brings up so many painful things I'd rather forget, I believe in you, and I want you to stop listening to what the world says, the world expects for women like us when we become mothers. I want you to trust that voice within that's telling you the truth, which is that you're meant for so much more. So I'm going to go back into my pain that I'd rather forget to show you just what you're made of. And the fact is this: my circumstances, the story might be so different to what your life experiences are like. But as you listen, I hope you can see my point, my message, which is anything that you are desiring, my dear, is possible for you once you trust that voice within. So I want to take you back about 20 years ago to a freezing cold night in London, in a little part of London called Soho, not the best part of London. And I walked into an apartment for an interview. I was with a friend of mine. Let's call her Karen. That wasn't her name, but let's just call her Karen for the purposes of this story. I walked into this apartment with Karen, and to be honest, I was relieved because it was such a cold night. The apartment was warm, and we were coming for an interview. So finally I had I was relieved, oh goodness me, we're warm. And I had the chance to get a job, start getting some money, to start getting my life back on track. There was a relief that washed over me when we walked in the door. But that relief quickly fled when I laid my eyes on him. And by him, I mean our interviewer. It was so long ago that I don't know that I remember all that much about what he looked like, but I'll never forget his bulging eyes. He had the most bulging, terrifying eyes that I'd ever seen. My relief quickly turned to panic as we walked into the apartment. This is like a dingy, smelly, dark apartment. I started to panic. And it was as though like the oxygen was sucked out of the room, because it suddenly became really, really hard to breathe. So I began to panic. I began to shake, and I think I must have zoned out for a while. Because the next thing I heard was literally, he was saying to me quite impatiently at this point, so you do know how much you're meant to charge? You do know how much you're meant to charge, right? I had no idea how much I was meant to charge. I had no idea what was even going on. Literally, I was glued to the spot and I was shaking, thinking, how in the world did I end up here? How in the world did I end up here? Now, Karen and the guy continued talking. And to be honest, I stopped hearing what they were saying, because literally the turmoil going on inside me literally just overshadowed anything they could be talking about. As they were talking, I could see their lips moving, but I couldn't hear any sound, because literally all I could hear was arguments going on within me saying, how did I end up here? How did I end up here? I mean, I came from a respectable family. We'd gone to church every week, for goodness sakes. Like, I grew up. I remember wanting to be a doctor when I grew up. How did I end up here, where I was effectively homeless? I had nowhere really to live. I was an addict. I dropped out of school. And my only real opportunity for any kind of work, I'd not been able to hold down a job. My only real opportunity for any kind of work was to be stood here with Karen and this pimp discussing what I was meant to charge. It was the most terrifying moment of my life. And as I stood there shaking, I felt so scared, so alone, and so ashamed. I said, how did my life come to this? I mean, this whole thing was Karen's idea. I didn't even want to be there, but what could I do? Do I leave? What were my options? I had no options. I mean, I was thinking, what choices do people like me have? None. So as I looked up, I thought, well, I better say something. This is supposed to be an interview. I'd better speak. I looked up thinking, what choice do I have? None. So I looked up, and Karen and him were looking at me again. I could tell they were thinking the same thing. I mean, what choice do you have? How else are you going to make any kind of money? This is your only choice. And as I stood there thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to resign to this fate, I heard this voice within me. It said, this is not who you are. You're meant for so much more. That voice made no sense. Given where I was standing, given who I was, that voice made no sense. But I took the courage to believe in that voice. I mean, I'd let down my family, I'd given up on my dreams, I'd given up so much. But I wasn't about to give up on myself. And this voice that told me I was meant for so much more, I decided to believe it. For me, the next obvious step was to have the courage to walk out of that room, out of that apartment. And that's exactly what I did. I walked out of that apartment into that empty street in Soho with no money, no plans, just a knowing within that I was meant for more. And I was determined to find out what my more was. I literally breathed in the fresh air. That fresh air had never felt so good. And I made it my mission to figure out what the more I was meant for was. I had no idea who that voice was that spoke to me. None. But I've since got to know it was the voice of God. It was my Lord and Savior, Yeshua. Many know him as Jesus, who literally came and saved me from the most terrifying moment of my life, I have got to know who he is. Even though I went to church, this was something that my parents took me to as a kid. I didn't really know him. I got to know him as my Lord and Savior, and I know his power. So literally, in that moment, I was like, okay, what do I do? You know, a lot of people see me, like, I talk about God, and I didn't even plan to share so much about God, but I talk about God a lot, even with my clients, the amazing women I coach. Like, you know, sometimes I say, let me just pray with you. Let's call in the miraculous. Let me believe on miraculous transformation, results on your behalf. And I pray with them so powerfully, and we see results every single time because I know the power that is in the name of God, in the name of Yeshua. And I know what he's done for me. Literally, since I walked out that night, I was like, what would you have me do? How do I find this more I'm meant for? And I was led to start to learn. I dropped out of the school system. I got back into the school system through a program in the UK called Clearing. If you don't get enough grades to get the university of your choice, universities that have spaces left offer these out. So I got back into the school system. I began to learn. I got a degree in banking and finance. I literally said yes, yes, yes to every opportunity that came my way. I became a star student. I got an internship at a bank, graduated at the top of my class with first class honors, the best grades you can get. I wrote an award-winning thesis. Literally, my star continued to rise and rise and rise. I worked in the financial industry for a while. I even learned how to code, for goodness sakes. Building decision-making scorecards for financial institutions, working with a phenomenally bright team of consultants. And one of my biggest dreams came true. I went to the University of Cambridge to study for my MBA. I mean, growing up in Nigeria where I was born, I only knew about 2 universities. I didn't know about any universities in Nigeria itself. 2 universities, Oxford and Cambridge. And for some reason, my heart was drawn to Cambridge, even as a child. God enabled me to fulfill that dream of going to the University of Cambridge on this discovery of what my more was. I was a class vice president. I went all around the world representing the student body of the University of Cambridge. When I graduated, that whole experience catapulted my career. I joined a top firm in a leadership development program in which I was literally sent all over the world for assignments in New York, several European locations, literally training up to be moving into a leadership position. You know, things were really looking up. I even got listed by one of the industry press as one of the top 30 under the age of 40 who were going to lead in this industry. Things kept on rising and rising for me. It was so incredible. So incredible for a while. Until it got to a time when at the age of 31, like so many women, you know, work and, you know, what I was doing there, it really controlled so much of my life. I was so busy. I didn't have time for anything outside of work, really. I was working so hard to succeed, I had no time for life. And at the age of 31, I ended up being totally stressed out, burned out, and hospitalized with stress. It was such a low point for me because, you know, there I was in a hospital bed. I'd been working so hard trying to meet my sales targets, and I'd barely scraped 10% of the sales targets I was trying to make, and here I was in a hospital bed. As I lay there again, I was like, wow, something needs to change. I heard that voice within me again say, this is not who you're meant to be. You're meant for so much more. I acted on it, and my next obvious step was to connect with the most phenomenal, my first ever coach and mentor, a phenomenal woman by the name of Danny Johnson, who basically taught me not only how to succeed phenomenally in the workplace, but also how to pair that with a personal life that is just so rich and so thriving. I went from basically scraping 10% of my targets to achieving over 800% of my target, 800% of my target by the time I left my sales role. And so if you ever want to, you know, get really great at sales, go check out Danny Johnson. My life was back on track. I met my incredible soulmate, Namdi. We got married in 2013, and I moved here to the beautiful Norway to be with him. Things were finally lining up. And in 2015, we had a beautiful daughter. We introduced Chiamaka into our lives, and she is incredible. So I went on maternity leave. You know, finally I had it all by the world standards. I had a high-flying career, the gorgeous man, you know, everything was great, the beautiful child, and I should have been just drinking in this amazingness. But I tell you the truth, I was a mess. I was an absolute mess. I actually lost myself, totally lost myself in that first year of motherhood. I totally did. I found myself, I was at home with the baby a lot. My husband was back to work quite soon. He was working on some quite intense projects. So I was on my own with the baby. You know, I had some help with my other family members, but I was on my own with the baby a lot. I was sleep deprived, and I was craving some intellectual stimulation and craving something else I couldn't quite put my hands on. So, you know, I chose to breastfeed my child, so there was many nights I'd be exhausted, you know, up at night feeding her. And to be honest, I don't know why nobody tells you just how painful breastfeeding can be. I always had visions of, you know, all these mums smiling, bonding with their children. That was not the case for me. It was really, really difficult. So I'd be up at night, you know, feeding her in so much pain, and I'd be scrolling through my phone, reading, Googling stuff about motherhood and reading all these mommy blogs to just distract myself from how painful it was. And I'd be Googling because I wasn't really sure what I was searching for. Just something wasn't sitting right with me. And I'd be Googling all these blogs that made matters worse, because I'd be reading about all these women that were like, oh, you know, once you have a kid, that's it. Your dreams are over. You sacrifice everything for your family. You know, life is over when you have a child. And I'm like, that is just not sitting right with me. But I kept seeing this over and over and over and over again, where literally millions of women on the internet were telling me, this is it. So I resigned myself to the fact that, Maxine, maybe you're just being ungrateful. You know, people look at your life, and I was blessed. I am blessed. People would be killing themselves to get into your shoes. You're just ungrateful. So I said, you know what? I'm just being ungrateful. Let me just embrace this. Let me just enjoy this and just be thankful I am a mom. And that was the plan. Until one day, I'd just been up that night feeding my daughter. I put her down to bed. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. I tell you the honest truth, I could not recognize the woman looking back at me. Literally, my hair looked like I'd been dragged through like a hedge backwards. My clothes were like a mismatched mess. I had like baby spit and everything all over me. I looked exhausted. I was exhausted. I was such a mess. And then again, I heard that voice within me say, this is not who you're meant to be. You're meant for so much more. I don't care if millions of women say that this is okay, this is it. This is not who you're meant to be. So again, I took the courage to act on it. What is my next step? And I asked to be guided. I prayed. I said, dear God, guide me. Show me what is the more I am meant for in this moment. You know, it might be okay for those other women to live like that, but it's not okay for me. I am grateful. I love this child. I love this life, but there's so much more for me. You have given me so many gifts. You have given me so many talents. I need a miracle. I didn't even know what miracle I was looking for. I just knew I was meant for more. So my prayers were answered. Not long after that, I discovered my now coach and mentor, a phenomenally fierce, fabulous, fashionable mentor called Gina DeVee, who told me, you were meant for so much more. You were born for such a time as this. Your life has purpose. And I discovered through her work, my phenomenal gift of coaching. I discovered I was able to build this business that has allowed me to serve and help women literally all over the world. It just blows my mind to think that my work has impacted women on 5 continents, where I show them literally how to succeed, not only in the workplace, but in their lives, so that they're living lives that they absolutely love, both professionally and personally. I've discovered how to bring all of me into my life, into my work. I've built this business I love that allows me to combine my love of speaking, teaching, coaching, philanthropy, all in one. It allows me to share this message of hope around the world. I've discovered who I am meant to be. Am I perfect? No. I have the same sort of struggles that everybody else has, but I refuse to do what everybody else what so many people seem to be okay with, which is just to settle. I will not settle. I was meant for so much more. And if you're still watching this video, I can guarantee it's because you also are meant for more. Never settle for what the world expects, even if you're the only one in millions that is not going to settle. Miracles are available when you trust that voice within. So this message can apply to anyone, but I'm speaking specifically to you right now as you think about starting and growing your family. You're going to hear all these voices that tell you your life is over, sacrifice everything. Maybe that's why you've delayed it for a few years, delaying and delaying, but the clock in your head is ticking because you want that child. Let me tell you this, if you're desiring to continue thriving in your personal life and in your professional life when you become a mother, it's possible and available. But you need to stop listening to the voices that tell you otherwise. Trust that voice within that tells you you're meant for so much more, and take the next step. Now, if you need to kind of dig deep and figure out what that next step is. But if you're somebody who needs to have a child, who's thinking about having a child soon, I want to make that next step easy for you. That next step is simple. I have put together a phenomenal 90-day program based on my 2 years of work helping women succeed wildly at work and in their personal life. I've put together this phenomenal program, which is my life's best work. It's a 90-day program called Childproof Your Career. Childproof. I love this concept. Think about it. If you have a beautiful home, you're not going to bring a child into that lovely home and expect it to look the same. You childproof it to protect the home and the child. That's the same concept with this program I've put together. Childproof Your Career. Basically, a lot of the time, women like you spend worrying about all the things that could go wrong, how impossible, how hard. If you devote even half of that time to preparing, to childproofing your career, you will succeed. You're going to come up against the same difficulties everybody does, but because you have focused on what you want, which is solutions rather than all the problems, and because you haven't settled, you're more geared up to succeed. This program is unlike anything you have seen out there. Literally, I'm going to help you. Right now, you may feel like you don't have any time in the day. How am I even going to fit looking after another human being? I'm going to show you how, that 24 hours a day that we all have can be used powerfully to create a life that just literally blows yours and everybody's minds when they look at it, because you can thrive professionally and personally. So there's going to be this beautiful vision that we'll craft for you together and a plan to make it a reality. We're going to help you release all the worries that you have. Literally, all these voices, they make you worry, they make you fearful, they make you doubt yourself. We're going to release all those worries. I'm going to help you activate your superpowers, because guess what? You have them. And I'm not talking about this whole superwoman thing about doing everything. I don't believe in that. No. But there's superpowers that you have within you that make you so effective on a little bit of time. You achieve so much. There's literally so much. I could go on and on and on about this program because I've literally poured my heart into creating it for you to help you succeed. But it is huge. So your next step, and actually I shouldn't actually say this one thing. I have designed this program such that I would like you to at the very least, recoup the investment you make in this program when you take your next career step with ease. There's a part in this program when we'll focus on what is your next career step. A lot of women are too scared to take it because it's like, oh, what if I go for this job, and when if I have to go on maternity leave, and all this and ahhing. I'll help you take your next career step with ease, and my heart, my intention is for you to recoup in that step the investment and much more that you make in this program. The women I've worked with in this way have had promotions, they've had bonuses, they've received bonuses when on maternity leave because we've helped them communicate the value they bring into the workplace. This is a powerful program that will help you succeed as a woman, a mother. So if this is sounding interesting to you, if this is resonating with you, check out the information I've set below this. Go ahead and get signed up. Or if you've still got questions, how's it going to work? What's the format? Go ahead and schedule a call with me. Let us talk through what are your goals? What is it you want to do? And is this program right for you? Because it's not right for everybody. It definitely is not right for everybody. So let's get on the phone and talk about it. Let's help you childproof your career. Let's help you create a thriving professional life that you just love alongside a phenomenal personal life that literally just sets your soul on fire. Whatever you decide to do, my dear, trust me. If you're a little bit nervous listening to all these people tell you how hard things are going to be, if you're worried, if you're fearful, stop listening to them. Trust that voice within that tells you you are meant for more, regardless of how ridiculous it seems in the situation. Remember that girl I told you about 20 years ago? It was so ridiculous for me to trust that voice. Trust that voice within you that you are meant for so much more. And importantly, take the next step it suggests. And for you, your next step if any of this message and this program has been resonating with you, is to get signed up or set up a call with me to understand if it's right for you. I'm a woman with a lot of responsibilities. I don't have a lot of time, so spaces are limited. Now, move quickly, get scheduled if any of this is sounding like it's for you. And whatever you do, my dear, remember my message to you. Anything you desire is possible. Anything. For me to be stood here in this beautiful, one of the most beautiful nations on earth, speaking and sharing this message from my heart to you would have been impossible. So whatever it is, I don't care who you are, where you've been, even if you screwed up like me, I royally screwed up. Whether you screwed up or the situation you find yourself in right now is something that just happened to you. Anything you desire is possible. Trust that voice within. Have the courage to act on it. Get expert help and just see where life takes you. All right, my dear, take care, and I look forward to speaking to you soon and helping you child-proof your career. Take care.